Hello, Pokemon fans out there. I'm Dustin Benzel, and welcome back to Pokemon Reflections, 4th generation, and this is the second part. In the previous video, we were discussing all the gyms and stuff like that, quickly going through who did what and everything like that. We were discussing 4th gen in general. There was Dawn and Brock in there, and all sorts of goodies. So, if you remember from the previous video, now we're going to discuss, well, I knew what it was before I started talking. Sorry about that. We're going to discuss, the Pokemon in detail, but first, let's discuss the layout of Ash's Pokemon and the gyms that they concluded. And then afterwards, then we will discuss the Pokemon in detail themselves, what I thought about them, what worked, what didn't, and stuff like that. So let's basically jump right into this reflections of 4th generation. All right, now if you remember correctly, in the beginning of 4th generation, while the first episode was completely about Dawn, introducing Dawn and stuff like that, we did see a clip of Ash and stuff like that, and that's when Pikachu and Apom were there. If you remember the final AG episode, or the 3rd generation episode, when Ash was going to Sinnoh, you'll remember that in the Battle Frontier, in the conclusion, that Ash said goodbye to Donphan, Sceptile, Swellow, Corphish, Glalie. Glalie wasn't there, my bad. Glalie was dumped previously, so he only dumped those that he had on his team. And there was also Apom, so that should be 5 if I'm not mistaken. Swellow, Corphish, Sceptile, Donphan, and Apom. Now, if you remember correctly, in that final episode, we saw Apom being upset because it didn't quite want to say goodbye to Ash. Little did we know Apom would have an effect of 4th generation, just not entirely at that time in the way we thought. So, the first episode of DP, the very end of it, we saw Ash talking to Professor Oak, saying, "Hey, Professor Oak, I'm Ash Ketchum. I'm here to be gyms, and I've got Pikachu, and oh yeah, Apom stowed away and stuff like that." And then we go further on in the next episode or something where Apom is instrumental in catching Ash's Starly. Then a few episodes later, Ash catches a Turtwig. And so on and so forth. Then Starly evolves into Staravia. Ash catches a Chimchar, which used to be Paul's. Then Ash trades Apom with Weasel, with Dawn's Weasel. So Ash has a Weasel now. Dawn has Apom. Then we further go. Ash catches a Gligar. Then the next thing that happened was, I believe it was Gliscor. Gligar evolved into Gliscor. Then Turtwig evolved into Grottle. Fast forward a little bit more. Staravia evolved into Staraptor. Then we move on to Chimchar evolving into Monferno. And Ash temporarily releases Gliscor to an Air Battle Master. He ends up catching Gibble. Monferno evolves, then Grottle evolves, and then we go to the Sinnoh League where Ash's previously 2nd gen Pokemon in Cyndaquil evolves. Okay, so that covers all the main team changes just right there. Okay, so let's talk about the Pokemon themselves a little bit more and what they did in the gym, starting with Pikachu. Now, 4th gen was perfect in regards to Pikachu. Yeah, you know how I dislike Pikachu being used constantly, being shoved down our throats, or my throat anyway, choking on Pikachu screen time and stuff like that. 4th generation was perfect because it didn't revolve around Pikachu. Now, I can understand maybe people out there like Pikachu, and they were a little disappointed that, oh, hey, Pikachu not being used very often. But I cannot stress this enough, and people just don't seem to get this through their thick skull, because they constantly argue with me in regards to this. So I'm going to make it pretty blunt here. and I'll probably say this many, many, many times in the future. Pikachu will always be in every episode. Pikachu will always eventually be used. There is no fear of Pikachu not being used because the writers would never do that. What the problem is, and people just don't seem to get this, is that Ash's other Pokemon are not permanent fixtures. They will not be in every episode. They will not have the chance to battle in every battle. Pikachu does. Pikachu will always have that chance. So I can't stress this enough. Fourth generation was perfect in regards to Pikachu because it didn't revolve around Pikachu. It revolved on Ash's other Pokemon, which it should be. Pikachu got plenty of screen time. Pikachu was pretty much a good Pokemon during that thing and stuff like that. So I can't understand why people just can't accept that Pikachu is a permanent fixture while the other Pokemon are not, which means that the writers, executive producers, Ash Ketchum, everyone involved should focus on the Pokemon that are temporary. Because Ash isn't going to get a permanent fixture. He's not going to go to 7th gen with Greninja and Gudra and sweep all the gyms and stuff like that. You know, if he has a Greninja by the time 7th generation rolls around. So 4th generation was perfect because it didn't revolve around Pikachu. That was one of the problems with 5th generation. People driving by making loud noises picked up by my camera. Sorry, I was a little distracted. Okay, sorry. And 5th gen was kind of horrible because Pikachu starred in gyms that it shouldn't have starred. I get that it didn't get very much in the first gym and everything like that, and it was just Oshawott and Tepig that got wins. But, against Berg, no, Tranquil should have Berg. I realize that Tranquil and Unfezant would have gotten Skyla, but Tranquil got totally screwed over just because Pikachu had to be used, I would have no problem with Pikachu taking out the electric gem if you remember what I said I'm way off track, sorry. But I'm just saying, and 6th gen is horrible because now Pikachu is starring in every gym. Well, not starring, but appearing in every gym. Now, I need to make a clarification on that. I was wrong. After I thought about it, there have been many times where Pikachu stood by Ash and it wasn't used because it wasn't used against Candace, but Pikachu was right next to Ash. So maybe being next to Ash doesn't mean anything. So it's possible that Ash will use Fletchinder against Ramos. Sorry about that slight distraction. I just remembered that I was a little concerned that Pikachu is always next to Ash, but I believe that Pikachu has always been next to Ash, except in like league battles when it's not used and stuff like that. But for the most part, Pikachu is always next to Ash, if I remember correctly. Because if I remember, yeah, that was the case with against Clay and stuff like that. But anyway, back to 4th generation. 4th generation was perfect because Pikachu was not in every gym, and it was not the star focus in every gym. In fact, the only gym that I can think of that Pikachu got any starring, if anything, let me think about it. Rourke, Gardenia, okay. Crasher Wake, Fantina, Byron, Canada, Fantina, Byron, okay, Actually, now that I think about it, Pikachu didn't star in any gym battle in 4th generation because Rourke had Turtwig, Gardenia had Apom, Maylene had Weasel, Crasher Wake had Weasel. No, yeah, okay. I got a little confused. I was like, wait, Weasel was in both? Fantina had Chimchar, Byron technically had Gliscor, Candace had Chimchar, and Volkner had Infernape. Sorry about that. Got a little distracted there. But that's not to say that Pikachu did not get wins. I mean, Pikachu beat a Gyarados, Pikachu beat a Onix, and Pikachu beat an Electivire and stuff like that. So Pikachu wasn't starved for wins, but I can understand that maybe Pikachu should have at least starred in one gym in 4th generation, to make it a little bit fair and stuff like that. But, but then we come to the 6th generation where Pikachu starred against Viola, Grant, and Corinna, and may or may not star against Clement. We'll just have to see. And so, yeah, I'm a little upset about that, especially if we come to Clement and Pikachu beats Bunnelby, is recalled, and then Pikachu beats Luxray or Heliolisk for the voltage badge. But that's 6th generation. That'll be a bridge that we'll cross when we get to it. So, yeah, back to 4th generation. I can actually, now that I think about it, I can understand that Pikachu may have been starved for attention for some of it. But Pikachu was still used constantly in many aspects. I mean, it was used against the Ditto trainer. I think her name was like Narissa or something like that. And she had 2 Dittos. One was a shiny, and that was a little disappointing because Torterra at this particular point had not been used and was not getting anything. Sure, Infernape beat a Ditto version of Infernape, but, Torterra couldn't get anything at this particular point. Heck, we all know Torterra did not get a single win as a Torterra. The only wins it ever got were as a Turtwig or a Grottle. But we'll discuss that later on in this video. So, Pikachu was kind of perfect in 4th generation. I mean, I can understand that Pikachu could have at least gotten one gym and stuff like that. But outside of that, in terms of Pikachu, 4th gen was perfect because the generation did not revolve around Pikachu like it kind of did in 5th gen and how it appears in 6th gen, you know? So that's my particular thoughts on that. So let's move on to the next Pokemon that Ash had real quickly, and that was Apom, even though we didn't have it. Now, if you're a Pokemon fan and you were here when the 4th generation came around, and you know all the Pokemon that revealed and stuff like that, when Ambipom was revealed, everyone knew why Ash had Apom, because prior to this, it was a little confusing as to why Ash caught it Apom and then ended up taking it with them to the next generation. As we found out, it was because there was an Ambipom. Now, the thing is, it didn't actually work out the way that we thought it was going to work out. In fact, because Apom was instrumental for I don't want to exactly say good writing or clever writing, but an instance where they showcased a trade between 2 main characters, and prior to this there haven't been many trades. There was Ash trading his Butterfree for Eradicate, but traded back before the SS Anne sank. I believe it was the SS Anne. It was one of those ships from 1st generation. Then the next big trade thing we had was Jessie trading her Lickitung for a Wobbuffet. As we all know, Wobbuffet has been around since 2nd generation. Jessie's Wobbuffet anyway. And it disappeared completely in 5th generation, but it's back in 6th generation. So yeah, Apom was instrumental for a plot device of Ash and Dawn actually trading, because I think at this particular moment the writers thought, well, there hasn't been a lot of permanent trades lately and stuff like that. So I think they were going to address that. But the problem with it is Apom got screwed over completely. Now, I know people are going to be like, well, Dustin, what happened before Apom got captured. Now, if you remember in Battle Frontier, when before Ash caught Apom, you'll see a particular scene where Apom is just sitting in the audience with Ash, Brock, and Max, and it's looking at May, or well, not necessarily May, but it's watching contests, right? And it's being captivated. You'll actually see a scene of Apom watching, and I guess it was even planned that far ahead that Apom was going to be traded over to the next female character for a Pokemon later on and stuff like that, which ended up being Buizel. Now, fast forward to the 4th generation. And we have Apom really liking contests and stuff like that. Ash still using Apom to battle, using Apom against Rourke, using Apom against Gardenia, and then Ash entered a contest with Apom. I think it was the first contest that Dawn was in, and I believe Zoe was in there too, as well. And Ash was using Apom and stuff like that, and I believe Ash lost that. Oh yeah, Ash lost that totally because he doesn't have any ribbon except that half ribbon that he got with tying from May in the last contest ever in third generation with Blaziken versus Sceptile. So anyway, but then we have Dawn capturing a Weasel, which was kind of weird because that didn't really fit very well. I understand that Weasel was only instrumental for the trade and was only used as an instrument to be trading. But, I don't think Dawn and Weasel actually made much sense. And the only reason that I can think Dawn really wanted Weasel for the most part was because, I don't know, she had some determined thing or whatever. And I guess plot device or plot story said that Dawn was going to capture Weasel and stuff like that, which is kind of interesting because if I remember correctly, the trailer for Weasel's capture, it was revolved around Ash trying to capture Weasel and Ash actually threw a Pokeball, but then I think Team Rocket got involved and everything happened, and then Dawn ended up catching Weasel at the end. And, now that I think about it, Dawn and Weasel did not exactly have the best relationship as opposed to like Ash and Apom and stuff like that. So, I mean, I know it was for a trade, but anyway, fast forward to the one between episode after Ash caught Chimchar. Zoe appears and thinks, "Hey, did you think about trading?" Because Weasel is more of a battler and Apom was more of a contest battler. So that's when they traded Apom for Weasel. And then in a couple of episodes later, after the Spirit Tome episode, there was a special Team Galactic type episode revolving around Unown, and Apom learned Double Hit, which was the reason for why it evolved near the end of the episode. Now, here's the thing. I had no problem with that whatsoever. It was only fast forward to the ping pong episode that we all hated pretty much, I guess, for the most part, where Ambipom said, "Oh, hey, ping pong is what I want to do. See you later, Ash and Dawn. Never see you again because I'm going to become ping pong champion." And this is really horrible because the last contest Ambipom was in, it ended up in a loss just so Kenny could have a contest ribbon. And as it seemed, as it came out as, Ambipom didn't exactly have the best track record when it came to contests. It seemed like it was some undercut way of screwing Apom slash Ambipom over in a way where, hey, Ambipom isn't a good contest Pokemon, and just get rid of it. We don't like it and stuff like that. And that really annoyed me because if see, at this particular moment, Dawn only had like what, 4 Pokemon. She only had Ambipom, she only had Mamoswine, she only had Pachirisu, Bunnery, Piplup. Okay, so she had 5 Pokemon. Okay, I was wrong. Okay. All right. Okay. But then the problem is Cyndaquil. Okay, that would have been fine. Dawn could have caught Cyndaquil just fine. That would have given her 6 Pokemon. But for some reason, that wasn't allowed. So Ambipom had to be released to be a ping pong champion, and that was really horrible and disappointing and stuff like that. And and I really hated it because there could have been many ways that Dawn could have gotten rid of Ambipom without actually getting rid of Ambipom. Ambipom could have decided, "Oh, hey, I'm gonna just go live with Johanna, Dawn's mother, and I'm gonna just hang around with Glameow and Umbreon." I believe that's the other Pokemon Johanna had. Pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go play with Johanna. You don't need to release me to be a ping pong champion master." And that's really and that's really hated me, because one of the things that happens to me is no matter what Pokemon Ash gets, I always end up liking it. It's kind of a weird connection. I like any Pokemon that Ash has, really. There's like no Pokemon that I dislike or loathe the most in comparison to other Pokemon. In fact, in comparison to the traveling companions, I can't think of any other traveling companion Pokemon that ranks higher than any of Ash's Pokemon, even if it was like some crappy whatever one shot Pokemon that Ash had that didn't really matter. I mean, if Ash actually kept the Beedrill instead of giving it to Casey in second generation, I probably would have thought Beedrill would have been a cool Pokemon. Even the Fearow that Ash could have captured in the first generation, but no, Ash couldn't get a Fearow. I would have liked Ash's to have a Fearow, or whatever the case may be. And I had a liking connection with Ambipom and Apom because it was still on the team. And if when Dawn left, I would have been perfectly fine with Ambipom. But having Ambipom being shoved under the wheel, or uh whatever, it was insulting to the whole entire development of Apom. It was like, oh well, the executive producers and the fans apparently do not like Ambipom, so well, you know what, we're just gonna get rid of that Pokemon. And this kind of annoys me, because if you call back to when Dawn caught Pachirisu, Dawn actually released Pachirisu, and then it went around with Jesse and then shocked the crap out of Jesse and stuff like that. And Dawn recaptured Pachirisu. And that was like very annoying, because later on, oh hey, ping pong, yeah, I'm gonna release Ambipom completely. And where was Ambipom gonna be? Vermilion City, which happens to be in Kanto. And what happened? We never got to see Ambipom again. So it was really annoying. There's things that there are releases that that I really hate. I was perfectly fine with Gardenia getting Cacnea, or Jesse releasing Dustox and stuff like that, because that's Team Rocket, and I really don't care if Misty, Brock, Dawn, May, Max. Oh, Max doesn't have any Pokemon. Silent, Iris, Serena, Clement, Bonnie, technically. I don't mind if they release Pokemon, because I don't really like them as much, but in this particular instance with Ambipom, I didn't exactly like it or was accept it, because, Apom really liked Ash. If you remember the Battle Frontier episode, remember the episode right after Apom's capture in the Battle Frontier, where it was like no, it wasn't Slack King for a day. It was like King for a day or something like that. And it revolved around some guy's nose pass and stuff like that. And it was about being king and stuff like that. And Apom was crowned, and they couldn't get the crown off Apom's head enough. And there was fear that Ash would have to stay for like a whole year or something like that. And that really cemented the bond between Apom and Ash. And Ash and Apom always had this great bond. So when Apom and Weasel were traded, it was like, well, okay, I guess that's acceptable, because at least Apom could still be on the team, see Ash and stuff like that. And, maybe Apom could grow to like Dawn a lot more and stuff like that. And then it evolved to Ambipom. Then it completely ignored Ash completely for the most part, because Ambipom was Dawn's Pokemon. And as opposed to Apom was a shared Pokemon between Dawn and Ash. And then the next thing you know, Ambipom is being released. And I'm like, no, what the heck? You know, it's really hard for me to like certain aspects of the anime when the writers and the executive producers and everyone involved, the higher ups who actually say that this is going to happen. I hate when they basically give a middle finger to character development and characters in general and stuff like that, like what they did with Oshawott. I already disliked Oshawott enough, but I could not hate Oshawott for what the writers did in regards to that scalp chop moment in the battle against Charon, despite the fact that that development episode against Stefan. I couldn't blame Oshawott on that. That's definitely just a middle finger to Oshawott in total. Before it was Oshawott's fault, and because Oshawott was so cute and stuff like that, but it was that episode that I couldn't exactly hate Oshawott, but I gave a middle finger to the writers and executive producers for that stupid battle between Ash and Sharon. Anyway, back to fourth generation. So that basically covers Apom. You know, so yeah, I've been like talking about Apom for about 10 minutes. We need to move on and on and on. So after Apom, we have Starly. Now, Starly is pretty unique in that it was Ash's first basic Pokemon that as a 3-stage. I mean, he caught Pidgeotto as a Pidgeotto. He didn't catch it as a Pidgey, evolved into Pidgeot. The next Pokemon that Ash caught was Nocta, which was part of a 2-stage Pokemon, basic and final. And then third generation, he caught Tailo, which was a 2-stage basic. So Starly was unique in that it was the first basic Pokemon that had 2 evolutions that Ash caught. And the more unique thing is how much Starly did not last. Starly only lasts until like episode 13 or 14 or 12 or whatever when it actually evolved in Staravia. Ash is I think the first evolution for the most part, if I can remember correctly, of the entire fourth generation outside of possibly weird scenes and stuff like that was pretty much Starly. Now I can't remember when Brock's Bonsly evolved because I know it was like right next to the episode evolution with Starly, so I'm not sure if Bonsly evolving to Sudowoodo came first or was it Starly into Starly. But Starly was a very early evolution. The only thing that got an even earlier evolution is called back to Ash's Caterpie evolving into Metapod and Butterfree. That was like the fastest evolution total in that Ash got a fully evolved Pokemon by a few episodes after capture. So yeah, like Ash only had Caterpie for like half an episode and evolved a Metapod, and then in the next episode it was a Butterfree. So Ash within 2 episodes had a fully evolved Pokemon. So yeah, you know, so yeah, that was pretty interesting to think that hey, Ash's Starly evolved really fast, because a lot of times they wait until like the 20 episodes or 30 episodes and stuff like that. Because if you fast forward to P-Dove, P-Dove didn't evolve until right before the third gym, and actually evolved into Tranquil, the episode right before the gym. You know, actually, I think it was actually going to be a bigger gap, but that was the Team Plasma versus Team Rocket episodes that were canceled, so that happened. But basically that, and then we have Fletchling evolving into Fletchinder, which I believe took around like 30 episodes, maybe 25 episodes since capture. It was something around there. Can't quite remember when that happened. It was somewhere around there because the evolution of Froakie into Frogadier was 52. I don't think Ash had Fletchinder for too long, or Hawlucha, maybe at least 20 episodes, which would take it back to what, 32? Something around there. That's probably around the time that Fletchling evolved into Fletchinder, you know. So anyway, back to Starly. So we got Staravia before the first gym and stuff like that, which is pretty unique in regards to a developed series as opposed to just doing whatever you want, because that is the earliest evolution that has ever took place, excluding first generation for obvious reasons. Because first generation Caterpie, of course, was going to evolve very quickly, but then the only reason why Ash's Swaddle didn't fully evolve quickly is because Swaddle is like the mega caterpillar Pokemon. It's like it actually has a move set, so there's no reason to fully evolve it because most other caterpillar Pokemon have very limited move pools, and that's why they have to fully evolve quickly. Well, I realized that May's Wurmple evolving into Beautifly and Jesse's Wurmple evolving into Dustox actually did take a while, but there was like no rush there, as opposed to someone like Ash who needs to have a battle capable Pokemon. It was so Starly evolving before the first gym was actually a surprise because Starly could have kept going on and on and on. So then evolved into Staravia. So Starly didn't get any battle except against Paul. Now, I will address this probably right now, I guess, but we'll wait until I discuss 6th gen of after I do all my reflections. Yeah, I'm gonna do a so far of XY anime, and it's probably gonna be a few weeks or months from now, but hold on. So yeah, so Starly didn't get any battles except against Paul Starly, where Ash's Starly lost because it didn't have very much moves. Then we moved on to Staravia, which actually didn't get a battle until, well, technically Gardenia's Cherubi in that practice battle, and then it got a win against Cherubi. Then it got battled against Maylene's Machoke and Meditite, getting wins from them. And then let's see. Then I can't remember if Staravia really got anything else after that. I mean, of course, there was Reggie's Swalot, I believe, where Staravia didn't do so well, and then there was the tag battle, which it didn't really do anything, which is kind of weird because Apom was the only Pokemon of Ash's at that particular time that did not get anything. So fast forward to everything that happened. Fast forwarding, can't think of anything, and then we get the Pokeringer episode where Ash's Staravia evolved into Staraptor. And that was a pretty epic scene, I have to say. That's probably one of the really good epic mid flight evolution scenes or whatever, and then it evolves and stuff like that. I think it beats any Pokemon evolution. I kind of liked Talos evolution and stuff like that, but we'll discuss that in 3rd generation and stuff like that. So, man, whew. Okay, let's just hurry and fast forward this, man. This part, it's going to be like 4 parts actually. Wow, So anyway, so then Staraptor got a couple of wins. The Staraptor was pretty cool because it was a pretty powerful Pokemon. It was one of Ash's most powerful Pokemon at this particular time because it was one of the few Pokemon that actually beat anything of Paul's in the lake battle, the full battle at Lake Acuity, I believe, which is where Uxie is, if I'm not mistaken. And Staraptor actually beat Paul's Weavile and stuff like that. So it was pretty nice because Staraptor and Chimchar were the only ones that actually got any wins during that whole entire thing. So yeah, Staraptor was pretty nice, the only disappointing thing is the league thing, but we'll talk about the league in another part. Whew. Okay, so let's go on to Turtwig. Sorry about this, but don't worry, this will be a lot faster. Um, and I still have to. Oh man, this is definitely going to be 4 parts now that I think about it. So we got Turtwig. Turtwig was an interesting Pokemon. It was pretty weird. We thought it was going to be Ash's main Pokemon. I don't know. It was kind of weird though, coming right after Turtwig and stuff like that. Or not Turtwig. Yeah, it was kind of weird that Ash caught a Turtwig after Ash had a Turtwig the whole entire 3rd generation. Wait a minute, that's not right. No, it's kind of weird getting having Ash have a Turtwig right after Trico. But then again, at this particular moment, Ash had all grass starters, so it wasn't entirely unexpected, And so we had Turtwig, and its development was pretty weird, It started off with as a pretty okay Pokemon, and then it just got faster and kind of stronger, and then it evolved, and then all hell broke loose at that particular moment, and it increased its weight drastically by evolving into Grotle and evolving into Grotle. And that's when its development of being super fast really changed and stuff like that. And I see where the riders were going in there. Grotto was really slow, so I had to change his battling style. Took it a while. Grotto was still too fat, basically, and stuff like that. One thing I will say that I like about Grottle, and I wish they did more of the Pokemon themselves, although this depends entirely on the Pokedex of the Pokemon and whether or not the Game Freak or whoever makes the Pokedexes actually want to do this. But one really nice feature is the Snover episode where Grottle learns Rock Climb. And if you remember correctly, Snover could create mint or ice berries or something like that, where it would be like ice cream berry kind of thing, and it grows naturally. Well, the thing is, Grottle actually created nuts, and it was pretty cool to see Grottle having nuts. Ash's Grottle having nuts growing in its like bushes and stuff like that, because that was its Pokedex thing where it said it would like grow nuts and stuff like that, and they weren't exactly edible by humans, but Pikachu was okay with them. So it'd be nice if the Pokedexes were that interesting, and the riders actually revolved around that a little bit more. So then Grottle didn't get anything against Paul. It did get against Candace's Sneasel. Then fast forward to the pre-battle gym where it was Grottle versus, I think it was Luxray, I believe. And Grottle wasn't doing so well, but the gym battle lights and town lights disappeared because Team Rocket were being jerks at this particular moment, ruining the gym battle by taking the Sunny Shore Tower of electricity. It was like a solar panel tower, and it had electricity stuff and stuff like that. So that's when Grottle evolved into Torterra. Now, I'm going to address this in my third part because I'm babbling on and on too much right now. But the moment that Grottle became a Torterra, that's when everything went to a complete stop in terms of Torterra. Now, a lot of people outright blame Chimchar, Monferno, and Infernape for this, but the problem is the executive producers and the writers. They just did not give enough battle credit to Torterra, and a lot of people be like, well, Torterra lost to really strong opponents and stuff like that, so that's okay. But the only acceptable loss that I can see Grottle having or Torterra having was against Bertha's Hippowdon, because Bertha was an Elite Four. So, of course, Ash wasn't going to beat Bertha, because that would have been weird. You know? Hey, Ash beat Bertha's Hippowdon. It was a one-on-one. Ash won. Well, that was weird. So that's the thing about Torterra, is that it didn't get anything. And that's really a shame, because Ash's Torterra is really cool. I mean, I really like Infernape, and technically I'd prefer Infernape, but Torterra was awesome. Torterra, just go to Google Images, and if you've never seen Torterra before, just type in Torterra. Torterra is a giant turtle. It's a giant turtle. It's bigger than your car, possibly. No, go look at your small car. Torterra is bigger than that. That's so cool. You can like take rides on Torterra. That'd be awesome. I'm a little fangasming here. But it's really cool that Ash had a Torterra, because at this particular moment, no one was expecting it, because we knew Infernape was going to happen. I mean, it was pretty much guaranteed that Infernape was going to happen, but Torterra, when Torterra was revealed in that opening that also out straight revealed Infernape, no one could possibly imagine the delight that Ash is going to get a Torterra? Grottle's going to evolve? Because at this particular moment, we didn't think Ash was going to evolve Grottle, So it was so disappointing that Torterra didn't get absolutely anything. But we'll discuss that later. So right now, let's move into Chimchar. Yeah, I know I'm not discussing the gems, but well, whatever. Now, Chimchar is an interesting case. Not only did it have the longest length of time before evolution, but its evolution was very quick, And the weird thing is that Chimchar got the most development, and that's why I like Infernape the most overall of Ash's DP Pokemon. You know, a lot of the other Pokemon have their places for being on the team, and I have no problem with any of the other Pokemon. But the problem, or no, not the problem is, but the thing is, Chimchar got the most development of any Pokemon in the Pokemon anime. There is nothing that can compare to the development that Chimchar had. Now, if you remember correctly, I pretty much implied this before, but Chimchar used to be Paul's, and Paul pretty much abused Chimchar. And then Paul said, "You know what, Chimchar, I don't want to deal with you at all." And because it was a disappointment, released Chimchar, and then Ash dealt with that. And whenever Chimchar activated Blaze under Ash's ownership, it went absolutely crazy. I don't want to quite go into this because I want to discuss stuff like that, but like I said, Chimchar had the best and the most development. There is nothing that can compare to that development because Chimchar went through a whole crap load of stuff, and stuff like that. A lot of people don't really care, but I kind of do. So anyway, Chimchar, it didn't do too well against Maylene, losing without taking a Pokemon. Then it was Fantina that started the rest of the episode gym streak, where it would always at least take out 2 Pokemon, which is pretty weird. I have no problem with it because the Pokemon that didn't get any wins, um, well, except for Volkner, where Torterra had to lose. It's not like it was really important. Like Pikachu lost against Fantina without beating anything. I was perfectly fine with that. Weasel not getting anything against Byron was, well, it was kind of disappointing, but it did just beat Fantina's Gengar, so it could have taken a break. But the more disappointing one, however, was Gliscor against Candace. That was probably the one of the most disappointing ones because Gliscor at this particular moment did not get a lot. Gliscor had probably the least battles and least development at this particular moment before Gibble came into the shot. So anyway, I was a little disappointed, but hey, Chimchar beat Snover and its evolution, Abomasnow, which was kind of an interesting touch. And then Chimchar evolved into Monferno, and then further or evolved into Monferno during the 6-on-6 against Paul, and then before the 8th gym happened, Chimchar further evolved into Infernape just right before the Ash was supposed to be battling against Volkner, but that was when Grottle evolved into Torterra. So then okay, so that's pretty much Chimchar's evolution and stuff like that. So then the next Pokemon that Ash had was Buizel. Now, Buizel was kind of weird because the moment that Ash got Buizel in the beginning was a pretty powerful Pokemon. It was a good power hitter, but then after the 4th gym, or even the 5th gym, even after the 5th gym, Buizel's screen time just plummeted downwards in favor of Chimchar and stuff like that. And I mean, I guess that was perfectly fine, but Buizel never recovered. It lost against the Steelix. It didn't do too well against these villains or whatever. I can't remember what they were, but I think Team Rocket were trying to recruit them and stuff like that. And they had like let's see, what did they have? Can't quite remember, but I know Officer Jenny was there, and she had a Growlithe that I believe could use Fire Fang or Thunder Fang or something like that. And Weasel didn't do so well against them. And Weasel lost against Kenny's Empoleon, and then there was the Mr. Mime loss, and then the Mr. Mime rematch where Weasel actually won, and then fast forward to the league battle with Gastrodon, winning against Gastrodon. Now, like I said, that was pretty much disappointing entirely. Okay. So, yeah, okay. So, Ash caught Gligar. Gligar was pretty funny, but it's kind of disappointing to see as it is, because the thing about Gligar is that it didn't exactly do anything until it evolved. It only had one battle, and it didn't do very well. Gligar took over like 10 episodes or something like that before it revealed any of its moves, even, or maybe even 8 or something like that. Longer than any Pokemon should be before revealing moves and stuff like that. And then there was that nice evolution where it was just all about Gligar. See, now the thing about is I actually really liked Ash catching a Gligar, because I remember how cool. I remember how excited Ash was when he first saw Gligar in the second generation, and even though it wasn't exactly as I thought, Ash kind of wanted a Gligar at the particular point. I mean, he was very interested in Gligar, so having that end up actually being the case, and Ash actually capturing a Gligar was pretty cool, because Gligar and Gliscor are pretty cool Pokemon and stuff like that. So the only disappointing thing was that Gligar evolved, or Gliscor kind of got released. The good news is it wasn't permanent. It was just temporary, just so Ash could have a sixth slot, so that they could give Ash a Gibble. Fast forward to Gibble. Gibble didn't really get very much, but it was okay. It was a pretty okay final Pokemon. It didn't battle any of the gyms. It didn't battle against Paul at all, so that was kind of disappointing. Gibble's main appeal was that it was Ash's first pseudo-legendary Pokemon, or basic stage of pseudo-legendary Pokemon that could evolve into a pseudo-legendary Pokemon. And then there was the fact that it had powerful dragon type moves and stuff like that. And it was the first dragon type on the main cast at that particular moment in time. Woo! So, whoa, if that was really loud, I really apologize. Um, anyway, this pretty much concludes part 2. I'm sorry that I didn't quite get into it, but I guess I was talking about Apom too much. Well, what can you say? I was a little disappointed about how Apom/Ambipom turned out. So, again, I'm sorry. This concludes part 2. It looks like there's actually going to be 4 parts of this reflections, because I still haven't quite gotten into what I wanted to discuss. So, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye. Well, hold on. Rewind. So the next part I will discuss the Pokemon more in detail, and everything like that. Hopefully, I won't take as long as I did in this particular episode, and then we'll jump into like Paul and Barry, and then hopefully we'll conclude with the league. So, either this is going to be there's either going to be one more part after this, or there's going to be 2 parts. It depends on the circumstances of how long I can talk for. So, so I'll see you in the next video, Pokemon video, or any of my other videos. So, goodbye.